Hello and welcome again to Living and Active. Happy Saturday morning. My name is Leland. That's Lima Echo Lima Alpha November. And my GMRS radio call sign is WSFU566. This is the second attempt I'm going to make, probably the last attempt I'm going to make, to shoot the video in which I explain why, in case some of you have come here from other people's channels, seeing me in the comments section, why I'm all fired up about the wood stoves that are on their way to North Carolina in terms as far as emergency relief goes. First, I want to say that I am in agreement that such a thing is necessary. Okay, as you can see or about to see, I have two of them here. I only wanted to get one, truthfully. Being someone in a wheelchair, uh, part of my preparation is the consideration that I am best. Uh, my best scenario is to be able to stay in an environment that is already um, suited to my mobility needs. I mean, my apartment, my place, it's all already fixed up with what I need in terms of getting around and being able to conduct daily life uh, with my limitations and disabilities. So, in a scenario in which people might need to be rescued because of the sudden downturn in their standard of living, no matter what the reason is, I'm better off if I can do whatever I can to make it so that I have as little need to be rescued as possible. Because realistically speaking, as a disabled uh, wheelchair user, I carry with me triple the logistical burden on anyone that would be coming to see to pull me out of a bad situation. So my my point of stewardship with my preparations is to reduce the burden on the responding units and taking myself out of the running for a primary priority rescue. So part of that is having an outside wood burning camp stove set up so that I can boil water, so that I can have heat, and so that I can simultaneously have something that produces heat and that I can cook on, um, which is hard to do with buddy heaters and generators and everything else without running cables everywhere. I have a generator, but um, that's for other stuff. Uh, so the issue with the stoves, okay, that are on the Amazon wish list, and I'll take you a little bit through the story if you don't mind me throwing my lap into the frame here. I started my search for a wood burning camp stove with the ones that are actually on the Amazon wish list. Okay, that's the one I started with. I started doing the research on that model, on that brand, because of price point, because of the availability on Amazon and all these other things. And I went directly to the Tubes of View, and I found a review on that exact stove that's on the wish list. And I saw the review, and because I saw that review, I decided against buying the Deer Famy, DEERFAMY, wood burning camp stoves that are on the Amazon wish list, slated to go to North Carolina. I seen last time I looked, there were quite a few of them that were headed to Tim, and I need to get this message out to them quickly so that those stoves don't get distributed amongst the mountains and cause a problem. Someone gets hurt or dies, and it gives the people who do such things an excuse to start confiscating wood stoves. So I sincerely hope that with this second effort to record the video, it can bear some fruit and it can go out and do the thing that it needs to do. So The reason I chose against the Dear for Me wood stove that I saw reviewed in the video was that the demonstrator noted that the chimney was built upside down, making the joints connect upside down and creating a hazard for a chimney fire, which is not a great thing for something that is advertised as a tent stove. Um, and the other thing was that he had noted that the welds on the firebox were incomplete. The door didn't seal well, so it wasn't drafting very well, so the fire wasn't getting very hot, making more smoke than it should, which means it was making more creosote inside the chimney that was built wrong than it should have. And the firebox itself did not have complete welds. So I chose against the wood stove that's on the wish list, and I went instead to one that I thought was going to be okay because it had an American sounding name that was spelled correctly. Uh, this is called Guide Gear. Um, it's a nice American rugged outdoor sounding kind of name. Similar price point, and it looked like it was a much sturdier construction, so I bought it. Okay, now if you can see, um, well, let's just do this. I bought it and I fired it twice for a grand total of less than 8 hours. Now, that little show right there could either be because I'm very weak in my hands and arms, which I am, could be because I have no leverage from the wheelchair, which I don't, or it could be because, as you can see on this joint is also completely impacted. Let's see if I can get some daylight here so you can see it, and I guess I can't. There we go, a little bit. How about if I open the flue? After less than 8 hours of burn over the course of 2 burns, this pipe is almost completely coated and encrusted with creosote inside and out, as you can see from the lovely patterning on the outside of the chimney. The reason for this is that the joints are set up for the female end to go on top and the male end to go in from the bottom. What that causes is, in the not hot enough fire to burn the fuel efficiently, the creosote just builds up and builds up and builds up and rests on the top of this rim until it gets to a point where the chimney gets hot enough to actually turn the creosote that's building up into tar, which then bubbles out and runs down the outside of the chimney. As you see here, runs out the outside of the chimney, and it pulls up on the top of, let's see if you can see it where I'm pointing. It pulls up on the top of the firebox at the base of the chimney, where it just sits there and builds up and boils and boils and boils until eventually, if you don't get the heat out of the firebox fast enough, it will spontaneously combust and give you a flash external chimney fire. And by that point, you might actually have an internal chimney fire as well. So, highly dangerous for multiple reasons. The Dear for Me, I knew was going to have that problem. This one also had that problem because not only is the chimney also upside down, but the door and the vents in the door for this firebox are also not designed well enough to give it adequate seal for the box to get hot enough to actually burn the fuel that's in it. In the second burn, I started it with a bunch of straw and kindling, and after like 3.5 hours of having fire in the box, after all this creosote built up and started running out the chimney, when I shut it down and went back the next day and pulled the ashes and everything out of the firebox, there's still a piece of paper like this in the back of the firebox that had not burned. And there's still a handful of straw that had not burned after 3.5 hours of being inside the firebox. So there's that. That's the proof that the firebox was not getting hot enough to actually burn the fuel efficiently. It made a bunch of creosote and almost started a fire on the outside of the firebox, which is a bad thing. So this is why if you've seen me and been annoyed by me in the comment sections of other people's videos, if you're wondering why I'm posting all the links that I am for replacement stoves to send instead of the ones that are on the Amazon wish list, that's why. This is a highly dangerous situation. It's dangerous enough that it got the attention of my local fire chief and police chief. I've sent pictures to both of them. They're using that information to develop training for other people who have the good idea of having something like this in case, so that they don't buy something like this and then think it's fine, and end up causing themselves more problems than what they started off with and needed this thing for in the first place. Again, my fear is that if these get out, if the ones that have already gotten to Tim get out and go out in the mountains and people use them and someone gets hurt, that will be the only excuse some people will need to start going around to ban them and start going around and confiscating people's wood stoves. They're not going to pay attention to this information I've shared. They're not going to care what brand it is. They're going to say, oh, that's a wood stove. We said you can't have it. We're taking it. So I want to avoid that if at all possible. Now, for the ones that have already been sent there, my neighbor, who has a son that is a welder, has an idea of what might be done to at least fix the chimney. Now, I want to caution you here, fixing the chimney so that it rests in the joints correctly and lets the creosote fall back down into the firebox and be burned up only fixes where the creosote goes after it builds up. Does not fix how hot the box get, does not fix the fact that the box does not get hot enough to efficiently burn the fuel, does not fix the amount of creosote that's being produced by this unit, and it definitely does not fix the risk of a chimney fire. But if you want to, I mean, these can easily be changed into like a cold smoking chamber. If you want to do that, have that as kind of a food preparation, preservation type of thing. But in terms of having it as a warming fire for heat, no, this is a bad idea. But the way that he came up with to try to fix the chimney, at least, would be to, I got to fight with this again, would be to obviously invert the sections, right? And then I would take another section that's not this one, so that this flue could be not directly on top of the firebox. And then you would make a collar that would go into here so that this piece would sit inside of it, and then get the chain going the right way. And then you would make some kind of adapter to fix the bottom of the spark arrestor, so that could also be a part of the completed reversed chimney, which again still is not going to fix all the problems that this stove has. Now, because I am getting very cold, because wrist braces do nothing to protect fingers in weather that is this cold, because this is Wisconsin at the end of November, and I am handling the metal pieces of a wood stove. I'll cover this back up again. I'm going to try now to give a little bit of a demonstration of the one that I bought to replace that, which is right here. Hopefully you can see it very quickly. These did not come with this stove. This is the one that is no good. This is a fire blanket. This is a welding blanket. This is what they use to catch sparks and whatnot when people are welding. I have this for a very specific reason as part of my setup. This comes with the good stove, not the bad stove. These came with the bad stove. I'm going to keep them for use with the good stove because why waste them? Now, this stove here is a Winterwell. That is the name of the brand. A Winterwell Nomad. That's the model. Size large. Okay. That's what I got here. This is like a $400 stove. I know the ones on Amazon that are deadly dangerous are like 100 something bucks. You're not going to be able to get a safe wood stove for 100 bucks. These stoves that are such a problem, they do not meet US or Canadian fire code. So they're technically kind of sort of illegal, which would give anybody that wants to pull up such things all the even before an accident happens, all the excuse they would need to confiscate them. So take that into consideration as well. This one, the Winterwell Medium, or sorry, the Winterwell Nomad Large that I have is built in accordance with US and Canadian fire code standards. As you will very quickly see from the spark arrestor on down, this thing is actually set up. Let me hold the spark arrestor the correct way. It is set up for the male end to go inside, the female end in a downward motion, meaning that any creosote that builds up inside the chimney and flows down it on the inside, not the outside. Flowing into the wood box, which does, by the way, burn hot enough, consistently enough, to efficiently and effectively burn the fuel that you put into it. Now, with this, I also bought a stovetop fan that's heat activated to actually move the hot air towards the people. This uh, stove, I might do a longer demonstration of this actual stove later, but it has the little thing that you lift off and you set your pot directly over the fire. It's got that cool little thing. It has two shelves that go off to the side, or can also be used as a handle to carry it around. It's very compact. Um, you can see it's got the same kind of flue setup, which makes sense because it is still a wood burning camp stove. But you can also see that if I show you, this has also been burned twice. I've had two fires in it, about the same amount of time, and looky, ain't that better? I would much rather know that these were going out into the mountains to provide people with warmth and an opportunity to cook for themselves than that other thing I showed you. Um, this is a large, like I said, the large one runs about 400 something dollars. The mediums run about 350, I think, and the smalls are much more reasonable, but they are tiny. I mean, very small, very small. Um, so they'd be more like, I think they'd be more of a nuisance than anything else. But this is a very nice size right here. Uh, like I said, I got a thermometer for it, so I can actually monitor the heat that's being produced, and with the controls in the door and the vents and the flue, this stove is very responsive to controls to help you regulate the heat and control it. I was able to keep this thing uh, between 475 and 575 for a very long time with hardly any trouble at all. Um, and when it did get too hot, because of the fuel I had put into it, when it did get too hot, all I had to do was close off the air, let it go for a little bit, and within a few minutes, it was back into normal operating range. So if you don't know what normal operating range is, if you can get a hold of a stove thermometer, most of them are marked. But if you get a hold of a stove thermometer, you want it to be anywhere between 400 and 600 degrees. That's your optimal range. Anything less than $400, 400 degrees, you're just making creosote. That's all you're doing. That's the big problem with this firebox and with the one that's and the one that's on the Amazon thing. They don't get hot enough to effectively burn the fuel. They produce creosote and then they discharge the creosote in the upside down chimney in such a way that it increases the risk of a fire. So that's the video. The first one I shot, I had to delete because I set my camera up in a weird spot and I accidentally caught my neighbor's license plate. Here's how serious of a situation it is. I accidentally caught my neighbor's license plate in the first video. When I tried to blur out my neighbor's license plate as I was uploading the video, I got a warning from YouTubers, the tubes of you. I don't know if they'll let me say their actual name in this context, but the tubes of you, the powers that be, told me in no uncertain terms that I would not be allowed to obscure any aspect, whether audio or video, of the video to any extent because I had made some claims in that video that were being, and I quote, investigated. So, because of that, because I wasn't going to upload a video that doxed my neighbors, because they've been very good to me, I do not want to do anything against them. I deleted the video and I reshot it. That's this one, so that I don't have to worry about editing anything out and I can just upload it and you guys can get the information and hopefully pass it along to the people who need to get it and and do whatever is necessary to avoid an even, well, not a greater tragedy, but a follow-up tragedy that could have been avoided. So, till next video, God bless you and keep you and reward uh, his faithful children who are trying to do his work and bring mercy to those who so desperately need it. See you next time.